What's going on, everybody? I was editing episode 15 and I realized that my mic is really messed up. So I'm coming in a little loud. So if you wouldn't mind, turn your headphones down a little bit if you're listening on headphones, and you should be all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you later.
So I was watching earlier this week. There was a debate or a hearing or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was, what the exact terminology for it was, but it was in relation to HR 40 is the bill that's out there. I don't know if you know what HR 40 is.
No.
So HR 40 is the bill to create a panel, a discussion for research on the concept of reparations. And they had like different people, different political folks, different Congress folks, and they had Herschel Walker on there, and he was talking. And so I'll talk about that a little bit first, and then I'll get your thoughts. Well, I'll shoot to you first, so, and then I'll jump back in. So what do you think about reparations as a concept? Do you think that us as Black people, or melanated people, as you like to say, should receive melanations should receive
melatonin? Yeah, they need to go to sleep.
Oh, I respect melatonin. I always have some, just for the nights when I can't sleep. But do you feel that we should, in some shape, form, or fashion, receive reparations?
Hell yeah.
And in the topic.
Look, bro, seriously, reparations for us, that's not even a question. Start with slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, police brutality, shit. I can go on and on and on.
Sure.
Criminal system, whatever. Hell yeah, we need reparations. Everybody else has gotten reparations for whatever reason, but us. We are the only demographic who has not received any kind of reparations. You think about the victims of the Holocaust. You think about the give me some more. Give me one more. Give me another. Because we was talking about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. The Japanese, Native
Americans have gotten theirs. Even my wife's family, the Chamorro people in Guam, when Japan invaded Guam, they're receiving some sort of reparations, which is a what is it called? A war claim.
Sure.
So everybody has received some sort of reparations who's been royally fucked over in the past 400 years or so, but us. So yes. But I have a question to bounce off to you real quick.
Sure.
How do you think they should decide who gets it? Because it's a lot of us out here.
So there's a couple ways, and I was thinking about it a little bit. So you are right. There are a lot of cases, and I even searched a little bit just to see who's received it in the past. But there's been a couple cases of small scale for like the events of Rosewood, the Tuskegee experiments, where is that, Oklahoma or somewhere, where there were eugenics procedure, I guess steps to achieve eugenics procedures, and eugenics is basically trying to reduce the population. So for those that don't know, it's basically where you either make the male or the woman sterile, so they don't produce offspring, and you reduce the line, therefore eliminating a particular demographic of people that way. It was a large, good number, over 100. But so in those relatively small cases, there have been Black people that have received reparations. But when you say who, I mean, I think there's a couple ways, because you got to be very, very careful about the wording on it. Because if you just say African Americans, you got to be real careful, because nothing against my brothers and sisters who have immigrated over here in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years from Africa.
Those are African Americans.
But that's not the same.
It's not, and that's why I prefer the term melanin.
Right.
We're not African Americans.
I think before there has to be some sort of documentation and proving to the fact that you can trace in some kind of way at least so many generations back. I mean, if you have, say, some semblance of your genealogy here in the 1920s, or as far back as you can, because think about us, our grandparents. I mean, we know our grandparents were here in the late 1800s, early 1900s, or our great grandparents and stuff like that.
And I actually researched that and found where they actually got married at during slave times.
Right. So you can find that. I mean, it gets tricky, yes.
Yeah.
For those that are like adopted and stuff like that, but I mean, there's a way. I mean, if you can figure it, there's a way. I mean, and what I fear is that question will be that particular issue will be what's used, and I'm going to talk about that a little more too. I think that'll be used as a deterrent or a stumbling block to keep it from happening. It's like, oh, well, we can't tell, and we don't want to give somebody who shouldn't get it instead of even paying what's due.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not the reason I have been doing our research, because me personally, I really have always wanted to know who we were, where were we from, what were our religious practices and everything like that. So I've actually been researching it, and I think our people need to do the same. You go to the National Archives and things like that. I mean, certain little DNA testing sites, it kind of gives you a feeling of belonging, but it's not, in my opinion, actual factual stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not. This is definitely where I'm from right now. Like, I've done it, and it gave me something to cling to. That's where I'm speaking from, experience. It gave me something to cling to. But I'm actually going to start as soon as it opens back up, because I checked, and I think the Georgia National Archives is closed still. But I'm gonna find one and do my research, and I think everybody else should. So if that question comes, you got your weapons ready already. You know what I'm saying? Check this paperwork out right here.
Right. Well, and there's ways to do it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to figure it out. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, I don't say it's not that hard, but you can easily do some traces back to figure out people and where they come from and stuff like that. So you can build a software to do the searches. Granted, some people will say I don't want to be in the system like that, but figure it out. I mean, it can be done, and that shouldn't be a reason to hindrance.
Hell, look up where you from. Look up if your family's from Virginia or not.
Yeah,
because that's where slavery started.
Sure. So
for us in America, that is.
Yeah. So one of the things when I was watching the HR 40 conference debate discussion, what I kept trying to figure out is no disrespect to him. And I realized that Herschel Walker was born in Augusta. I didn't know that. No disrespect to him. Who in the hell makes him an authority on discussing reparations or not? Like,
but they do that.
Right. But see, and I'm gonna tell you what he said, because I listened to what he said in particular. And another black guy that was on there he said that when he was thinking about the concept, kind of that same argument of, how can we discuss reparations when, I don't know how far it goes back, or you can't blame me for what my ancestors have done. He was saying that kind of he was on that side of the argument. And it was like, who the hell are you? I mean,
Ice Cube in that bitch.
Right. Like, give me, if you don't have like historians, thought leaders, economists. I mean, I consider myself a somewhat smart brother. I am not qualified to be in that discussion on yes and no on reparations, because one, yes, I believe we should definitely have reparations, but why in the hell do you have him? And it makes the headlines. Yeah. Oh, Herschel Walker said that we shouldn't give reparations.
Because it's Herschel Walker. I hate to use it because, he was a great talent when he was doing what he did. You know what I'm saying? Great guy. I haven't met him to say great guy, but, he did his thing when he was doing
it. He was a great athlete.
Yeah. They make our spokesperson be the puppet.
Say it.
They find the puppet like black melanin folk should do it itself and won't get somebody to actually argue your ass down real quick.
Right. Because the other guy who was on there, and that's what I was about to say, he wasn't any better. He was basically getting on the whole argument of, we know what needs to be done to be successful. graduate from high school, because there are statistics that say if you graduate from high school, you don't have a kid before a certain age, and you're statistically likely to be better off. Sure. Irrelevant to the topic, though.
Yeah. I'm doing damn good.
But what I'm saying is, yes. But what I'm saying is, what that argument says is, if you look at a population of 100, if out of that population, if you meet all those criteria, you're more likely to be successful if you graduated from high school, went to, say, college, got married, had kids later. You're just statistically likely. Not saying that it's impossible. It's just the numbers are in your favor. I mean, it's just like, you're statistically more likely to get into an accident closer to your house. Doesn't mean that you'll always get into one, but that's just how the numbers happen to fall, and you can take with that what you want. And in this particular case, totally irrelevant to the reparations discussion whatsoever. My whole thing is, if we were to have received reparations as a people earlier, I guarantee you the distribution of wealth would be a totally different landscape right now. Yeah. Totally different. I guarantee it.
Everybody have a 70-inch flat screen.
Well, be careful with that, because that's another argument on it too, is they'll make the argument that, if we were to give reparations, it would be wasted. Because there was a lady, people share her all the time when she talks about, I can't remember her name right now, but she was speaking in a classroom once. She's a white lady, and she was talking to a classroom, and she was describing all these situations, and she was like, this Jane Scott, Jane Elliott, Jane something, and she was basically explaining, if you had all these factors against you, this is what it feels like to be systemically oppressed and be susceptible to have experienced racism. And they asked her about reparations, and her argument, and she may have changed her stance on it or whatever since, but her argument was basically, if you look at other people that have had reparations, they weren't using it productively. So it makes the case for reparations as a concept flawed, is what her point was, basically. Which, again, is another one of those stupid arguments that circumvent the entire point of the discussion. Like whether you get the money and decide to get your 1070-inch flat screens, or you get the money and you decide to start a business, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, now you can flip those 10 flat screens. There you go, you got the business.
For about a week until they go down in price.
And I've had this conversation. I think me and Janae was having this conversation. I personally feel like the reparation don't even have to be money.
Right.
Yeah, give us some fucking land.
Sure.
Let us go for what we know. You know what I'm saying? What was the reparation supposed to be? 40 acres and a mule or something like that?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, give us our 40 acres. It don't necessarily have to be a check.
I'll take
the land over a check.
Like, for example, with I was reading an article earlier today with all of the power outages and problems that folks are having in Texas. Some of the aid that's going to be provided is low cost loans to actually get your home repair. So people are going to have a lot of house repair bills. So if you've got a low interest loan, or access to business loans, or access to home ownership loans, I mean, there's different ways to do it. I mean, you can have a pool of money, you could have certain things going. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is, for me, even going a step further, the whole let's have a bill to have a study to discuss should we even do reparations is a waste of fucking time.
Yeah, it is.
To me, the study should be how much and when. And how, and answer those questions, and that should be the end of the discussion, point blank, period.
Not should we or should we not. What kind of shit is that? Like that, that just kind of pissed me off just now.
Yeah, but you see it. That's the whole bill, though. The whole bill is not crazy to pass it. The whole bill is to study if it should be implemented.
Then
possible.
You got Herschel Walker fighting for us.
Right. Which is all the headline. Right. I mean, no, great athlete, whatever.
Yeah.
But
get Cube, goddammit.
But see, I don't even want him, to be honest with you. No disrespect to Ice Cube, because I mean, if you're thinking about like the contract with Black America, he didn't write that, and that's he was the face of it, and he was the one using his star capital to get that up to those that'll hear. Now, should he be doing that? Oh, hell yes, definitely support that all day. But he had I think he had Dr. Claude Anderson and a whole bunch of other intellectual thought leaders, and had them. He had a brother. He was he a historian or an economist? I believe he was an economist, but he didn't write it. He got those that knew more about the topic that he did to get it together. And that's what I think people miss when they were like, oh, who is Ice Cube to be talking about what Black people need? Ice Cube knew that himself. He got people who knew more than he did. And that's the thing. Give me some people who are experts in any avenue of the field whatsoever that could be related.
But now, in times now, the experts are not the important people to get stuff done. The face of whatever is behind, like I said, Ice Cube is the face.
Right.
The face is what they see. The face is what's going to be on the headline and have motherfuckers like, like, you heard it first, guys. Herschel Walker says, hey,
well, see, but that's the thing. I don't give a damn about who's the face.
Yeah. I
give a damn about who's the one putting the plan together. Now, if you had some economists, some mathematicians, some like social scientists, some psychologists, if you had a team of those type of experts, I'm good. That's what you should do. Not having no damn politicians sitting together in a room and Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
I'm talking this shit out.
And how many of them politicians look like us? I know there were a few.
There was a few.
Keyword was few.
But even still, nothing against a politician. Yeah, I mean, unless you have that background, other than you trying to get the bill pushed, I don't want you leading the discussion either, because you're not going to ask the right questions to get to the root of the matter. I mean, it's just like they had the hearing this week too for that GameStop shit. And when I watched some of that, you could see like the lining of the questions weren't to get to the root of the problem or to correct the problem. Yeah. It was to get those gotcha moments, to be like, aha, I got you. Not trying to get to the root of the problem. And I think that's what those things do. It's just like, oh, we're going to have a study and we're going to talk about it. And in 40 years from now, we're going to have another study and we're going to talk about it some more. And then you have other people that say the longer and longer it gets away, the more they're like, oh, well, we don't need to do this because yada, 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 yada. But it just drives me crazy because you see, it's one of those things that on paper, if you're not paying attention, it sounds good and you might think it's actually a good thing, but it's really a symbolic gesture at best.
Yeah, but that shit don't need to be symbolic. It need to fucking materialize into something we can touch.
Run me my check.
That's what I'm saying. Like
shit.
Something. Check or land. You pick one or both. give
right.
And it's not like we're begging. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's what's due.
Right.
I'm tired of hearing slavery was 400 years ago. Get over it.
So Kim and I talked about that particular fact last night because where it stemmed from was we were talking about the discussion of bringing the minimum wage up to $15. And initially on the surface, I was against it because I was along the lines of, well, those kinds of jobs aren't necessarily intended or they weren't designed for people to feed their family. Make careers out of is what I'll say. That's better. And I was all for that. But then thinking about it, that's not necessarily the case. And if you look at where we are now, who do you see that still has to work?
Wage workers.
Right. I have been working at home for a long time now.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, there's more in my check than somebody who's making my pizza that I got last night.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And now that you said that really does bring light to that particular subject right there. Because like
the counter
on the surface, I was the exact same.
Right, and the counter argument is always you don't want to breed lazy. Well, look at all these millionaires and billionaires that make all this money and they're lazy as hell too.
And their kids lazy.
Right.
Lazy.
So it's again one of those arguments to avoid the issue altogether. But back to my point,
they going
was that
the poor areas and shit.
But is that if you think about running a business and you think a little bit about economics, I'm not an economist, but I took a few economics classes and I know a little bit about numbers to get by.
Yeah.
In order to be profitable as a business, you have to either increase your revenue or decrease your cost. What's a big cost of any business? Labor. So let's take that all the way back to slavery. Think about all of the shit that got done in this country. Think about all of the wealth that was generated in this country. Do you think it could have been generated to the same degree without slave labor? And I say, hell no.
Hell, the country wouldn't have been the country without slave labor. It was the slaves fighting in the Revolutionary War is why we won the fucking Revolutionary War in the first place. Look it up, guys, if y'all don't believe me. If you're like, oh no, that motherfucker's lying, fuck you, go look it up.
Well, shit, yeah, because they were offered freedom a lot of times for fighting in the war.
Yeah. And at first, George Washington said, no, we don't want the slaves fighting. And then they started getting their ass busted by the British. Now, hey, let's get the slaves over here, please. Let's bring them on in. We're losing.
Substitution.
And you patriots is about to be mad about that one. But yeah, it's a fact. Look it up.
Yeah, I mean, so that's my whole thing. I mean, you can't say that you can't penalize current generations for the transgressions of their ancestors when in a lot of cases people are eating off of the transgressions of their ancestors. So if you are like, oh yeah, my great grandfather had a plantation and that's our money, tobacco was our industry or whatever the industry was, or we have a textile mill or an oil, whatever the case was, if you say you come from money that can descend from slavery, then you have benefited directly from slavery, no matter how far down the line. I mean, it's just like the same, just like generational wealth. Yep. Generational wealth starts from somebody in the family tree deciding that things are going to be different from their line going down. It takes that one person in the family to make that decision going down, and everybody down the family tree will benefit from it. So don't hand me that shit of it was so long ago. So
they still be have tours and shit on plantations and shit. You can walk into plantation houses and all this other shit. And guess what? Somebody own that shit that's probably still related to the people who own that shit. So get the fuck out of here.
So for me, I don't want to hear that shit.
No.